Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And Tony Brown has officially opened up on the entire sort of contract situation, as well as his intentions to one day be part of the All Blacks coaching staff, as well as interesting discussions that already had taken place within the last year about him potentially joining the All Blacks. And I think one thing is pretty certain: we will one day see him as part of that coaching setup, whether it's as head coach or as an assistant coach, attack coach, the likes of that, obviously remains to be seen. But him involved in the All Blacks is basically a case of when rather than if, And the good news is, from a Springbok point of view, it sounds like it's going to be post 2027 because he is not looking to get out of his contract, and his contract does not have an out that will allow him to go and join, for example, a Jamie Joseph if he does get the All Blacks job. Although at the moment, it'd be interesting to see who does get the job because lots of different candidates being kind of floated around. But before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so this came out this afternoon. And it's a lot of extracts from an interview that he gave when he was on News Talk ZB. And basically that he revealed that there was an attempt to get him involved just before Scott Robertson got sacked, but it did not come to fruition. So speaking in the interview, he said as follows about the whole sort of situation. He said, yeah, it's pretty bizarre, the timing around what's happening and no sort of plan going forward with regards to Scott Robertson having been sacked with no kind of replacement lined up, with basically being 18 months till the World Cup, greatest rivalry tour. There's so much happening for New Zealand rugby in the next 2 years that, to make a coaching change at this stage is pretty risky, in all honesty. And it'll be interesting to sort of see if it does pay off, or whether they, really start to regret the decision. And I think if they bomb out of the World Cup, for example, then they'll probably look back and think, well, maybe sacking him did sort of more harm than good. But basically they said that their belief was that they basically weren't going to be competitive. I think the concept was they weren't going to be competitive in the World Cup under Scott Robertson, and that sacking him would allow them the best opportunity to put together a coaching staff that maybe might make them competitive for the World Cup. But then in terms of Tony Brown being linked, he said, my name is getting thrown in there plenty, but no one's really talked to me. So I've always just been going back to South Africa to finish my contract, and happily so. He is contracted until the end of 2027. I don't see him renewing, to be perfectly honest. I think that he will probably make a move back to New Zealand, but that's fine. I think that was kind of the point. Into a World Cup cycle stage, and then you kind of got to find the next person really afterwards. But he did, however, reveal that he was given he was offered an opportunity to try and join the All Blacks. So in terms of his contract, he clarified that there is no out for his contract, and when Scott Robertson did approach him, he did not entertain it due to the fact that he was already under contract and there's no sort of break clause or anything like that. He said as follows. He said 100% with regards to whether he would want to work with the All Blacks if he wasn't employed for the Box. He said, I would have 2 years ago as well, and in the future, it's definitely something I want to do. Just the timing hasn't worked. My commitment to South Africa was for 4 years, and I've always had the plan to honor that commitment. He said, yeah, it's very frustrating that the time hasn't worked out. He says, I even talked to Rez a couple of months ago about potentially joining the All Blacks. But it's like I said to him, my commitment to South Africa was 4 years, and I've always wanted to honor that. And I said, I'm just so frustrated no one talked to me 2 years ago. And how much is New Zealand rugby kicking themselves right now when he's basically saying that he was ready and prepared and wanted to be involved in the All Black setup? They obviously didn't see it. They obviously deemed him sort of surplus to requirements, or Scott Robertson didn't want him for whatever reason. And as a result, South Africa said, thank you very much. We'll bring you in because we see the potential value that you could bring to the squad. And now you've got a South African side probably playing some of the best rugby a Springbok side has ever played under his tutelage, and you're seeing the form of a Sasha Zulu, Marley Liebach, and the sort of attacking brand of rugby that we are looking to play. And I think that at the moment we are, the awe of the world, and playing the kind of rugby that All Blacks are expected to kind of play. So it's a very interesting situation. And he said that, but that's rugby with regards to not approaching, and he had his coaches, and I just had to go and find another job. I mean, it's how wild when you think of how things happen. You know, he could have gone and joined Scott Robertson. Look, in fairness, no one's saying that it would have definitely worked out had he gone and joined Scott Robertson. You know, it could have been also been a complete flop, but maybe he would have also been sacked, for example, in the likes of that. You know, because it's very different situations coming into a settled Springbok setup, you know, with a Rassie Erasmus and the likes of that, versus going to an All Black setup, which should have been quite new, you know, just gone out the World Cup, quite a lot of new players, a bit of a player, a turnaround with losing your Brody Retallick, Sam Whitelocks, Richie Mwangas, for example, Aaron Smiths, and the likes of that. So there's no guarantee that things would have worked out differently for Scott Robertson had Tony Brown made the move. But instead, he had to go to find something to do. And now he's basically being hailed as one of the best attack coaches in the world at the helm of the attack of the current best team. So from a Springbok point of view, it's great. It's fantastic. First of all, we know he's not going anywhere. So he's locked down. You know, we've got him for until the next World Cup. That's not going to change. And we don't have to stress, really. Obviously, I think, you know, something like a Rassie Erasmus will already be looking at who the next person will be to bring in. You know, who will that be their attack coach post 2027? We obviously also have brought back Felix Jones, who did do a lot of the attack-based stuff, especially in 2019 and 2023 as well. So we've got options, inverted commas, in terms of people that can handle the attack. But I think what he's brought with Tony Brown and a Jay, for example, is just different perspectives of how New Zealand play, for example, different ways of looking about the game. I think he's just sort of created this think tank where the ideas just fly around the table and everyone kind of has a different idea, different kind of perspective, and they've managed to then sort of gel all those ideas together to create what is currently the number one side in the world. With regards to what I think he'll do at the All Blacks, I mean, I think he's exactly what you want as the All Blacks. You know, he's a former All Black for a start, understands the culture, understands the expectation, wants to play an attacking brand of rugby, which has always been synonymous with the All Blacks. So, I mean, it's a match made in heaven. The question is, can they get the timing right, and can they partner him with the right people so that he can have the kind of impact on the All Blacks that he's had on the Springboks? So the question is, do you see him being in charge of an All Black side or being involved in an All Black side come the next World Cup, you know, 2020, 31? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you soon.